All right, so today I am here with, let me make sure I get this right. Bryan
Bryan,
Smith,
Bryan, Bryan Smythe,
Bryan Smythe.
Bryan Smythe.
I like Bryan.
Uh,
Bryan Smith, what's new with, let's talk about this first. I want to go into something specific, but let's just have a conversation about what's upcoming, what's going on. What do you need? What do you need me as your marketing, as your product marketing person? As you, the product manager, what do you need me to know about?
Um,
Nothing.
what am I allowed to say or not to say? Um,
Well, you know, so for anybody watching this, me and Bryan meet, you know what? Let me preframe this. Each week, me and Bryan meet because Bryan is the product manager at audIT, and I am the marketing person at audIT. So I do all the product marketing, right? So a product marketer has to get together with the product manager to understand what's going on, what we need to communicate to folks, and sometimes we can't. We got to talk privately. So we're doing our standing meeting every Friday. Today is January 27th, by the way, 2023. So I want to make sure everybody's updated. So if you're watching clips from here, you know when it is, because hey, if you're watching a training from last year, it might be outdated now. So we're keep updating these. We've got them on a YouTube playlist for you. That's really easy to get to. Go to auditforit.com/YouTube features. Feature. Did I do feature or features? Hang on a second. Let me make sure, because this is brand new. It's features, YouTube features, one word. That'll take you to our YouTube playlist that's designed for all the features that are coming out. But when we do this, Bryan's going to talk about things that we can't release yet. So Bryan, you cue me. If you have something you don't want to mention, just start off saying, edit this out.
no, I appreciate that, Mike. So the main thing is we are revamping the kind of the UI UX of audIT, which is slated to be out most likely at the beginning of Q2. So just a different user experience from how the application looks, some better user experience and some more seamless and adding some simplicity to the application. An example I can give you is, we're taking a look at areas where you can save time with clicks. One of those being that if you guys are inside of the application, and you ever clone, right, your baseline audit and want to do a comparison report to your proposed audit, we're going to give you the ability to actually set default summary statements for your audit types as well as your templates, right? So you could very quickly go ahead, instead of having to click every single audit item and change that summary statement from red and yellow over to green, they're going to be set for you and you can apply those in an instance. Right. Because, Mike, I know you talk to a lot of our customers, as I do, and this is a big feature that's going to save a lot of time, and quickly get into the system, get out. Sales is probably the area, as an MSP and working for Frank's MSP for all those years, is probably the number one area we should be spending time in. But in running his service operation and the project operations is probably the last thing we have time to do, right? Because we're putting out all those fires. But we're trying to make an effort from a product standpoint here to make sure that when you're in the app, you can do things very, very quickly. Now, also with that too, a heavy focus of 2023 for us is going to be around integrations, right? So we're not only going to be enhancing our offering with the PSA integrations we have right now with Kaseya BMS, Autotask, and ConnectWise, but we're also going to be integrating with other softwares out there that you as MSPs use every single day. Can't say any names right now, but probably around that beginning of Q2, we're going to have at least integrations with 3 other vendors out there that are very common vendors that you use in terms of presenting data or using and getting information from as well too. So we're really excited to announce that and have that that's coming out probably, like I mentioned, at the beginning of Q2 as well.
Yeah, that's going to be good. I'm pretty excited. I think people are going to be really excited. These are things that people have been asking for. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. The other one too is system customization. So that's one where you're going to be able to really go in and change not only the report around further, right, to be able to edit some of the verbiage in there, right? So this is one where that second page of the report where we talk about your customized report, your audit score, how to go through and read this, we're going to offer you the ability to edit that verbiage. If you don't want to call it a base plan summary, you're going to have the ability to do that. Instead of calling it a one-time cost, you can call it your project fee. You could call it your piece. You can call it, cut that, Mike, that last part
I
there.
know. Everything's dinging at me all of a sudden.
Yeah. And you could also, instead of calling your audit score, right, if you want to go out there and do a cybersecurity score, you could change it inside of the app or it references in the report, also in the app, to your cybersecurity score, right? So that's another area that a lot of customers have been asking for. So we want to really, we thought we really turned as a company when we offered the ability to customize a report. Well, we're doing that even further. So really give you carte blanche access to really customizing this as you see fit.
Cool. All right, Bryan. So today, and in these feature updates, what I want to do is go through a little training. And each week we're going to do a role play where I'm the user and I've called you up and I'm asking you how to do something. So I'm going to put you on the spot on January 27th, 2023. Because things are changing so much, we may repeat these. So again, if you want to see these, go to auditforit.com/YouTube features, one word, and it'll direct you to our YouTube playlist that is for features and updates. That'll keep you updated on the most recent stuff. And we're gonna, you'll as of today, you'll see only one video in there, but this is a new thing for us. We're gonna make sure we bring this to you on a regular basis. So today, Bryan, with that said, what I want to know how to do is how to use this fact finder.
Absolutely. So let me go ahead. I'll share my screen here, Mike. All right. So whenever talking about this, I always like to try to paint the origin of audit and when we began. A lot of people thought we were just another data collection tool when we launched over 7 years ago. So with that, we very quickly had to show the difference between that we are truly a sales presentation and sales automation reporting system, right? So what we had in the original app for you to use is what we call the original fact finder. Now, the intent of this was to go ahead and print this out. And, Frank and I used to do this inside of his MSP where we would go when we were meeting with a prospect to an initial assessment meeting, right? Where we would go through a discovery process of trying to understand what they were doing and how they were using IT. So we used to print this out. And this was helping MSPs when they were using audit to get some of that information, not rely on any types of scans or, installing your RMM agent. Because the main reason why we did it too is we often were met with resistance of going in and telling people that we were going to go ahead and scan something or download this executable file, whatever the case may be. So that another methodology of getting the information is why we came out with this fact finder. Right. So this first page in here was finding out more about the business, how they use technology, and really why are we here today, right? They're obviously at a point where they can't, something's bothering them or things aren't working efficiently, whether they were using an MSP or they weren't working with, or they were working with one at the time. So that's where this page, believe it or not, now, we got a ton of information from it, Mike. When they would describe an issue, and this is where a lot of that salesmanship comes in, and Frank was very good at that. And, I learned a lot of those skills too, to kind of constantly pull on the thread of, hey, so you're telling me that you're having a lot of issues with like your mail not being delivered. Is it getting caught in spam? Do you guys using a third-party spam service? I don't even know, right? So you just start to pull on the thread and you get a lot of more information from the prospect at this point. Right. Then we also had the second page of their fact finder here, where we're getting to more of, who's that office manager, who's that technical point of contact in the company, right? Because if that person wasn't in the meeting, a lot of times we were meeting with the CEO of the company, but yet there's the office manager person who really handled a lot of the IT stuff and wasn't in that meeting. So we'd like to try to find out who they were and talk to them as well. We also found out about their current IT support, and we also layered in some wedge techniques here too, right? If you're familiar, I know a lot of our subscribers are part of the Technology Marketing Toolkit. We actually saw Randy Schwantz, who is author of the book, Wedge Technique, Wedge Selling, right? This is where we layered in those kinds of concepts by saying, hey, your current IT provider, when they gave you a copy of their insurance policy, did you actually review it to make sure it's still? And they're like, wait a second, what? So that's one of the things that that was layered in here as well too. We'd also go through and find out some of the financial information, some other general information about the locations, line of business applications, things of that nature.
I got to stop you for a second, Brian, because
Sure.
I don't know whether you told me or I told you or which one of us, but that guy, Randy, was there at one of these TMT events and came over to our table and picked up audit, started thumbing through it and going, hey, this is the wedge technique. This is exactly what I'm trying to teach people how to do. He really loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually was in the bathroom with him when I saw the audit report when we were at one of these conventions. And I said, hey, looks familiar. And he goes, yeah, this is great. I said, I'm actually part of the company. And we were actually started talking more about it.
Awesome.
So Randy's is very big in the insurance industry. And he's been at a lot of the industry events in IT and found our report and loved it. So we talked to him in the past about how to enhance this even further as well, too. So continuing back on this, Mike, is after these pages here, then what we used to do is we just included the original template of the original audit report with just some boxes in here that you could jot down some notes. All right. So this is where you print this out. You could jot down these notes. It was more of like a checklist or to remember to ask about these different audit items on here, right? And then we had some additional notes pages there. All right. So with that, right? Now that it's 2023, we used to get a lot of feedback from customers is, I would love to have the ability to just create my own, or can we do this electronically? All right, so this led us to coming out with an electronic fact finder. All right, so the methodology that we're currently using for the fact finder is much like inside of the application where you have individual audit items in categories, right? And those categories are part of the templates. We follow the same methodology here where we have sections of a fact finder, right? Much like you have categories of the audit report where you can create different sections of the fact finder, all right? So inside of the application, if I go to the fact finding sections, right, I can go ahead and say create a section, right? So I'll call this test section with Brooksy, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and just say for our video series. Okay.
I prefer Brooksy with a IE.
You're a Y. I spelled Bryan with a Y. I put a Y on the end of it, Mike.
All right, fair enough.
Now in here, right, I've just created this section. Now I have one of two options is I can enter in a question manually, right, by clicking on add question manually. Mike, what is today's date? Right. If I want to type in more information, this is more designed for if you're an MSP who has a team member going out to do this, you can go ahead and enter in more information to say, make sure you find out specifically this, right? So that's why we put that in there. And then you have a
question. So that field is for the MSP. It's not something the customer is seeing.
Correct. Most of this the customer isn't seeing. In our opinion, we feel like you should be always completing the fact finder. You should never send this out. Now, with that, we are looking probably in the second half of this year for some enhancements to this, right? This is something that's in what we call an ideation phase in our product development lifecycle, where there are some things that you have to send out like a compliance checklist, or you have to touch base with a customer, they have to fill something out. We are exploring options to have that inside of the application to send out. Nothing concrete on that, but it is something that we are looking to do. But for the meantime, that's where this fact finder is designed to be internal to you, right? Now, if you want to in here as well, you can go ahead and check off that it's mandatory. All right, so you can make sure if you're not the person going out and doing this, but yet you're preparing the report, that who's ever doing this assessment or this discovery process actually marks this as mandatory and they ask that question. All right, so what this does is it actually goes ahead and adds a question to this section of a fact finder. All right. Now, the other option, Mike, is if I click on here where it says type or to search an audit item, you can see that some of the audit items are listed here. So if I go ahead and choose antivirus, right, and then I go ahead and click on add, I have questions in here specifically tied to the audit item of antivirus. All right. So this is where once again, how you add questions in very quickly. You can go ahead and have specific questions for those audit items. All right. So where do you go to do that and have those in there? So if I come over here to the menu option to audit items, I right click and just say open in a new tab, right? I can come here and I can go to antivirus. All right, now I'm in the audit items area. If I go to antivirus and click on edit, right? If we have a tab in here called fact finder, this is where you can spend time on having specific fact finding questions for an individual audit item, right? And we follow the same kind of UI UX here in terms of just adding a question in there, and then it will populate there. And then you can go ahead and very quickly add in other areas, right? Like if I go into backup, let me go to cloud to cloud backup, right? Here, backup, cloud backup, and go ahead and click on add, right? So you can see here that we're pulling in those questions to build out this section of fact find. Any questions on that there, Brooksy?
That is pretty cool. So they can basically go a step further than what we were doing, and you know, we're providing some starter questions, right? We still give them the high level stuff. Yes.
No. Cut this.
So no. I'm playing. Remember, I know the answer. I'm playing the user who's on the phone with you. So this is like an Oscar-worthy performance here, man. I'm throwing all this stuff at you. I'm like, oh, because people, well, from a user perspective, they may have used the old fact finder. So that's a question I get. When I'm talking to users, is it still the way it is? Because sometimes users want to use that, and they can still use that. They've got the old fact finder in there if they're using, right? So,
with that is you have the ability to create your own questions in here. The only areas we actually include, if you go to fact finding sections, right, we do have in here the ability. We pulled in all of those questions from the original fact finder as a separate section, right? So those questions that were contained in the original fact finder, we do have a section in there for you. Now, how that applies—
those are already there.
Correct. Now, how that applies is once we've created these sections, right, then you're going to create a template of a fact finder, right? Much like you have a template of the audit report, now we're going to create an actual fact finder and piece all these sections together, right? So I'm going to come in here to a new template, and I'm going to go fact finder template with Brooksy, right? And I'm going to go ahead and say save template. Now, here's all the available sections that I have, right? So I want to include, just by quickly turning this radio button on, I'm going to include those general questions, right? I'm going to come in here to my test section with Brooksy. All right.
Yes. So the answer is actually yes. Those original questions from the fact finder are still there, but you have to add them to your template.
Correct. Correct. Yep. So this is where also too I could add in whatever sections I want. I can go ahead and add those in, and they will be included in my template. All right. Now at this point, I can go ahead and save this template. But if I want to see how this is going to look from an electronic standpoint, I can click on electronic preview, right? And expand out all these areas, right? So here's my questions listed out by sections, right? Or if I click back on the breadcrumb trail here, I could actually preview the PDF that actually prints out, right? So I could print this out and bring it with me. So at this point, if I save this particular template, right, now it's saved, right? It's available to me. Now, Mike, how do I go ahead and use this if I want to do it electronically with a customer instead of just printing it out? Okay, so if I come into audITs, right, and I'm going to go to the Michael Scott Paper Company, right, and you can see that I was in here with one of our users yesterday doing an onboarding session. So let's say I'm going out to do a baseline audit, right? I want to go ahead and say create a fact finder, all right? So inside of the actual audit report, right, I'm in for this particular auditee, right? I'm going to say create a fact finder, and I'm going to choose a template. So I'm going to find my fact finder template with Brooksy, And in this view, we just give you an ability to just overlook it real quick, and then let's go ahead and click on save, right? So now, right, when I actually go to my meeting, if I come in here, right, I'm going to come in and choose, all right, now I'm in my meeting with the Michael Scott Paper Company. I'm going to click on edit. So if I expand this out, right, so tell us about your business and how you use technology.
And I would say, what is technology? I don't
Exactly.
understand.
Exactly.
And you would
Um,
write, this guy has no clue, right?
yeah, yeah. They use technology like every paper company, right?
Right. It's,
Dot,
they
dot,
think it's
dot.
paper. They think
Yeah,
it's a plug. I plug it in. It's something I
exactly.
plug in.
And then you could, go through here and you can go to the next question. You'll see that it's saving it. And we give you a progress bar here as well too. So once again, for those who are, filling this out, maybe who isn't the person preparing the report, they can make sure that they're answering all these questions. Now, one thing to note too, Mike, what a lot of MSPs do too, maybe it's not a question. Maybe it just says, hey, check the inventory of the computers, right? Or find out how many computers they have. So that's where you're able to just list a note in here too, and whoever's completing the assessment can go ahead and do it. Now, once this is done, if you come back in here, right, I go into audit trail. This is where sorry, one. This is where what happens at this point is the fact finder is going to populate over here. All right. So the intent of this is to tie the system together and have better workflow, right? So the purpose of it is to go ahead and say, you know what, I've completed this fact finder. It's now inside of the audit report. So when I come here and start to fill out my summary statements to complete this audit report, I have all the information right here. Now, the kind of the way this is visually laid out is if there's a particular audit item question tied to server, which we didn't add in. So if you recall, Mike, when we were creating the sections of the fact finder, and if you click on a particular audit item and add those questions in from that audit item, right, they would be listed right here, right? So we put that at top so you can very quickly just see, all right, here's the questions for server, here's how they answered. You know what, we're going to choose that. Actually, the server's within 7 years old, blah, 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 right? It's good. Okay. BDR, right? Oh, look, there are some questions contained for this one, but whoever went out there didn't fill it out. I'm gonna have to follow back up with them. All right. But let me just review down here because here's the entire rest of the fact finder and the questions. Maybe they wrote something down here for BDR in one of the other sections because they were just doing it in interest of time. So that's what we've done is we put the individual audit item questions from the fact finder up top, and then the entire fact finder here as well too, in case you jot down some notes referencing this particular audit item to more easily choose them. All right.
I love this. So this lets me, like, if I'm and two things, just when I'm dealing with when I'm chatting with customers on this and doing trainings or doing feedback. I hear from MSP owners who are like, how can I've got a salesperson who goes out, or I've got a tech who goes out who's not very salesy. I want to make sure they ask the right questions. So now as the owner, I can get together and, I can create this. But also on the other side of it, the tech or especially the salesperson in an MSP who is not technical, they can't go out and do a technical assessment. They could sit down and go back with their owner and say, let me fill out this fact finder together so that I understand what I'm asking. And I can kind of, I could see me as a salesperson in an MSP going in that second box where you said, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was a note for the person doing the fact finding. You could actually say, can you explain this to me and let me write it down, make sure I understand it. And then you're even making notes for yourself. So they can build this together and create a really robust system for going out that's easy to use, easy to implement, and then easy for all of the players. The person who's doing the fact finding is able to go out and pull the right information. The person who's doing the audit later, maybe a marketing person in the MSP, everybody's able to do their part much easier.
Absolutely. And the other thing too, Mike, that we're in development on and probably will be around that Q2 time period is what happens if you did print out the PDF document, right? Or hey, you just wrote down on a legal pad all your notes. We're going to offer the ability to upload that information right here too. So if you choose not to do the electronic version of this and you just print it out to a PDF, or you generate other some kind of PDF or Word doc, whatever the case may be, you could upload your notes right into here too, in lieu of the electronic fact finder showing. So we're working on that right now. That's about to begin development, probably in about 2 or 3 weeks. So we're going to put that out to offer that option too.
Very cool.
Yep. So
well, Bryan, this has been phenomenal. Thank you for sharing this. Do you have anything before we go, any words of wisdom, anything you want to add to that, or anything that you want me to know about and our viewers to know about here?
No. First and foremost, always appreciate everyone's business, and more importantly, the feedback. When I took over as product manager about 1.5 years ago, much of the work we did was on the back end, front end, and you're going to see a lot of more of those front end changes, like I mentioned at the beginning of our call here, Mike. But now we're really starting to hit the road with a lot of these features, integration work. So always welcome the feedback. We're constantly, striving to help you guys increase your MRR, increase your closing ratio, and then also to save time, right? I led off of that at the beginning of the call. Trust me, in helping Frank run his MSP years ago, it was a lot of work. And like I mentioned, sales is always sometimes the one area that you don't have a lot of time for. So we're trying to constantly make this more efficient for you to get in there, prepare these reports, get out there and sell and go make more money.
Right. And it's very exciting for me, as a marketing person here, communicating this stuff. Every time I go in, I practically see something different. So it's been really exciting. You guys have been doing a great job in product. And we're going to keep bringing this to you. Me and Bryan meet every Friday. I'm going to record these, and as long as we're not saying, we may miss a week where it's just, there's nothing new going on, but we want to keep you updated. So we're going to me and Bryan do this Feature Friday, where we're going to talk about any new feature. And right now we've got a backlog. We're kind of catching up on doing this because we've developed so much stuff over the past months, half year or so, or year really. So we're updating things. The Fact Finder is actually now an old release. It's on its second or third iteration, so it's even been improved since we released it. And as we improve things, we'll do new trainings. And I'll leave you off with this thought, everybody. If you have a question on any audit feature, anything to do with audit that you want to know about, and you want us to discuss on Feature Friday, I just made that up. I think that sounds cool. Email me. I'm Mike@auditforit.com, and make sure you check our playlist on YouTube. Go to our YouTube channel. Just auditforit.com. I'm sorry, auditforit is our YouTube channel. Look for that, or go to auditforit.com/YouTube features, one word, and that'll redirect you over to our YouTube playlist for feature updates. So have a great weekend, Bryan. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you all next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mike. Happy Friday.